Okay, it's 6:01 p.m. We'll call to order a regular meeting of the Board of Education. Let's stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Sue, any additions or deletions to note?
No.
Is there a motion to accept the minutes of the August 7th meeting? Jackie, second. Jenny? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, no special presentations tonight. No hearings, petitions, so we'll go right into business considerations. We have 6:1 through 6:13. Is there a motion for one or more? Okay, motion for all, Jackie? Yeah?
Roll call.
Okay. We'll set that aside for a moment. So, Jackie?
6:11 through 6:13 with the exception of, or sorry, 6:1 through 6:13 with the exception of 6:11.
Okay, all right. Second? Second. Jenny? All right. Before we open discussion, just one item to note here. We have a $5,000 donation from the Sports Association for, to go towards the digital touchscreen for the Hall of Fame, which is great. So thank you for that. Any discussion on the remaining business considerations?
Yes.
All right,
You can
Matt
go
and
first.
Jenny. Go ahead, Matt.
Just on the donation too, I just want to make clear, it says Sports Association, but that money actually came from the Shauna Hazelton Fund, which gave scholarships to our students for many, many years. They finally shut this fund down and gave that money to the Hall of Fame through the Sports Association to help do that. So I just want to make sure clear that that money actually is still Shauna Hazelton Fund money.
Okay, great, yeah, thanks.
Yep. And then 6:10, is that, Brian, are we hire interim people, forever and a day? Is it standard to have a consultant agreement, not just hire them as an interim, as like a personnel matter? Is this a new way things are going on? I was just surprised to see it there, not in person.
It's been our practice to do it this way. It's someone who's being hired. I mean, there might be a few explanations for that. They're being hired as a substitute, which we do have a sub rate for substitutes on our BOCES, our sub rate pay.
Yeah.
But I would say because the work that someone like this does is somewhat different than if we were hiring someone who's in alignment with the contract, the administrative contract, because they can say no. They can come and go as they please. So not that a substitute can't, but when we do agreements like this, it allows us two things: to set the pay rate. That is different maybe than a pay rate on the sub list, but also to set terms that maybe are unique to the individual that's doing the work. Most of the time, and you've probably noticed just in the two or three that you've seen, the language is very similar for all of them. It talks about.
This is the first one I've seen for this that I've noticed at least, so, yeah.
I was thinking like the substitute for social studies.
Okay.
But that was before you came on.
Yeah.
But it is not uncommon for us to do this in practice, especially for people who.
So
Right.
basically, they're not going in the unit, they're not being hired in the
They're
unit, it's a separate agreement for that. Okay, that's fine, I just,
Yeah.
somehow, I might have not noticed it the last few years, or
Yeah.
if it's newer. And the other one I had, and I'll turn it over to Jenny. Was there discussion in last year at all about this merger for the two teams? Can you have any more information about that? Maybe I just wasn't around for it, so.
We attempted to merge some of the swim teams last year. The other teams that were interested, they couldn't rally the membership in order to do it. So it's something that we had been interested in doing for a while. What the philosophy is that we'd be able to increase our competitiveness by, because we obviously have strong individual athletes.
Right.
As we, all of those, it's a unique thing about track and swimming. It's a group and individual event, but we have been discussing it. I think Jen may have mentioned it at the report that she did. She had talked about the attempts to consolidate some of our smaller teams.
Okay, I know it's common in a lot of places, I see it in even football and everything else. Take 1 year off and you miss everything, so.
Yeah. No.
1 year and show up to meetings.
They tried last year, they weren't
Okay.
successful.
And so they have that all figured out, and transportation and how it's all going to work. Thank you.
And I can't remember, they're obligated for all the transportation to get the students here. And then from that point, we'd be transporting to wherever the events are.
Okay. Yeah, I don't need to know what it is, so long as I know it's been figured out. Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Someone was looking through the budget, and for cannabis revenue, what is that? And do we anticipate receiving money from it? It's a line item in there that says
Oh, it's
cannabis
from,
revenue.
it's from sales from state aid.
So
so
people who go
the
to
state-
dispensaries,
Yeah, I don't know how, I don't know the details behind it, but we get a portion of the sales goes to schools. I don't know off
Okay.
the top of my head how it's calculated. But
Similar
the
to
same
the
thing with
lottery?
like lottery, yeah,
Okay.
that we get a portion
Cannabis
of
is
it.
the new lottery.
okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was
Yep.
thinking, but I wasn't sure, so I figured I would ask. For 6.3, when it says, what does it mean when it says confirm PO under like the,
So confirmed PO means what happened was we ordered it before the purchase order was issued. So we shouldn't be doing that. It does get issued after, but the process that it should be done is purchase order, before we purchase anything, should be done where we do the purchase order, which is the approval to purchase the items.
okay.
And then we actually, say we're good with it, you can purchase the items that we want. We don't write any checks or anything like that until if it's an item, either receive the item or the service, if the service is completed, we get confirmation of that, then we get invoice and we pay them.
Okay. Sorry, I have questions on a lot, sorry.
Do you have any more on 6.3?
No, I don't.
I have one.
Okay.
So we'll stick there. I just have it's just because it's a large dollar amount. On the second page, there's an $810,000. Just says fund general, no vendor, nothing explained. What is that?
On which,
Page 2.
7-Eleven?
On the second page, 7/11/2024.
that's all the checks.
Okay,
More than one check there. If you see the checks off to the side there, it goes from
Okay.
36236 to 36258.
okay, so that's just the sum of all of them.
Yeah, it says he went through all those and that, so we do it in warrants that we
Okay.
call them, and that's A3. And he went through all of them, the total was that amount, and he didn't see any issues with that.
No.
And then on the prior page, the 495 just says capital, is that just dealing with, just a bulk number for capital expenses, or?
Which,
On the previous page?
okay. Yeah, that's the same thing, that one was a capital expense. Same thing, it was a bulk one for that kind of money. I believe, I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm assuming those are the new buses.
That's fine, it was just a
Yeah.
large number, and
Yep,
and, that's all.
those are the 3 new buses.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
All right, so my next question is 6.4. What is this document? It says standard workday resolution for employees. It just delineates how many hours are?
Yeah, so we have to,
accepted for
for the New York State, so it's the non-teachers, the ERS, we
Okay.
have to set a standard workday for individuals. So
Okay.
it goes towards their retirement.
Okay,
We have to do this every year.
so if they work above that, is there additional pay, or are they not able to work above that? Like,
Well, this is just for their hours related to retirement.
Okay. Okay,
This has nothing to do, hey, you worked 40 hours, you worked 30 hours, you get overtime here, because, yeah, it's completely different.
so then my next question is on 6.5, on the preschool special education service contract. First of all, the letter is dated 6/5, so I'm curious why it took like 2 months to come to us. And it seems to be unsigned, and it's for a date starting July 1st through June 30th. It looks to be an agreement between Albany County and us. So it took special ed 2 months to get it to you?
Yes, so
The
Okay.
fact that it's dated 6/5 doesn't mean that that's necessarily when the county sent it
Is there
to
a
us.
stamp
but,
on there?
I
Okay.
just signed the document today.
There is no
so give
stamp
it to
on
me.
it.
That's, yeah.
And
Okay.
just as I'm glad you called this one out, Jenny. The relevance of this is, as we mentioned during our presentations during the budget process, we've never, not once, been able to be in compliance with our evaluations for preschool-age children. because the county was supposed to be providing these assessments, but they don't have the staff to do it. And by hiring our own staff to do it, every single one of our children for the first time in years was assessed in a timely fashion and were able to be placed where they needed to be as they entered preschool. And the benefit, the reason this contract exists is we are now providing a county service. The county is paying us, reimbursing us for the cost of that. So it's mutually beneficial because they've never been able to handle the workload and offer us the service providers to do the work.
I have no problem with that aspect of it, but within this document, it states that the child must receive services within 3 days of board approval. When they come to us late, does that impact their start time?
What do you mean?
In Article 2, it says scope of services to be performed by the provider. And then it says the provider shall accept a child that is referred to its program for services within 3 business days of authorization from the board. In the event the program is unable to accept a child within the above specified time period, notification must immediately be made to the municipality and the board so that the board, if deemed appropriate, can designate another program in which the child can be placed. Again, I don't have a problem with that. I'm just curious how we are expected to comply with that when we don't have board meetings every week. And that might not be a you question, that might be more of a larger scope question, but it seems like it could be an area of concern for compliance purposes. And maybe I'm interpreting it wrong, but
So, and I'm going to take a shot at this, but when a CPSC meeting occurs and they recommend services, the dates are approved at that point, and that's when they go to the board. Actually finding the program doesn't necessarily match those dates. As you know, as a preschool provider, that is a challenge. So it isn't necessarily they've been referred to a program, and that if the provider has a place, they accept them within 3 days.
okay. Okay, I guess it doesn't say exactly what NASA's are, just says they have to be accepted. I'm just curious about the whole meaning behind that. The way it's worded and our responsibility. I'm very, very happy that we're able to do the evaluations for the preschoolers and that they're able to get the services. I just wonder how that works for compliance, but. So my other questions are on 6.9 for the budget transfers. It seems like quite a few budget transfers. Is this commonly when we do these? I don't remember from the past if this is like the time of year where we do these types of things because it's
Yes.
our budget season and.
Yeah, so kind of towards the end of the year, we look at where we're at, and I reach out to directors and the principals and say, hey, listen, I think we're gonna have some extra funds. Let's start, trying to, give me the wish list and we'll start knocking stuff off. And that's where this kind of comes from. So I realize, hey, we're gonna have some extra funds in these ones, and I know how much we have. And then, we start, seeing what our priorities are and start kind of knocking them off towards the end of the year. So yes, this is the time of
In
year.
many instances, we're purchasing this coming school year's supplies and
Yeah,
equipment.
I mean, a lot of, the big ticket items on here are equipment purchases, and some other, like we did some replacing of new wall pads in both elementary schools, which was a plan for next year, but because we had additional funds, we were able to do it this year.
Are all of these items additional funds that we had? Because some of them seem like they're,
There's some budgetary stuff that was moved around, just for, we try to do a little bit better coding for the year end, when we have to file the ST3.
okay. And so it says for one of them that the salaries for the high schools, because of the 23-24 contract, it only affected the high school, it didn't affect the other schools?
Well,
Or were
the way
there?
that the contract out, we So we have to budget for it, you know, in May, and we didn't have the final contract, new contract for the teachers. So we didn't budget enough for just the high schoolers, the high school
Okay.
teachers. Yep.
Okay. And then for how are career studies students determined? It's, one of them was more, I don't know how to tell you which one it is. It's towards the bottom of the second page. It's like 2 up, and it says textbooks in district, and then BOCES regular instruction. It says we had additional career studies students that we didn't budget for.
Yeah.
How is that generally, like, do we have a set number of students that are allowed to go, or is it based on enrollment?
I don't know exactly how the career studies are selected. Do you happen to know career studies?
It says for additional career studies students that we didn't budget for.
So what happens is we have a general idea of where we think I talk to Colleen and say, hey, where do you think, you know, last year we had 5, we possibly could have 6, but as much as 8 or something like that. So I budget for a certain amount where we think it is, and then sometimes, hey, we have other kids, you know what, this program would be good for them, and we have to
Okay.
move it over and make transfers for that.
Okay. That's fair. And then,
How they're selected, I don't know exactly how
And is
that
it just-
process work.
is it just students that are coming from student support services, or is it
For,
for this line, like
I gotta find the line here.
BOCES, like, sorry.
2110, 490, 28.
On here, it's like the second one up from the bottom of the first page, but I don't know if yours is
Yeah.
the same.
Oh.
It says
No,
textbooks
there's a
in
lot,
district.
there's a lot of things in there. That's not just that. It's a big code with a lot of different instructional needs in there.
Okay. And then,
But that was the reason for that transfer.
and one of them was like for additional bus aids due to behavior issues.
So we had a few runs that was a little troubling, so we got some additional bus monitors that we felt would make the run a little bit more successful.
Is that something that we would have had to approve?
The
addition of bus aids, or
well,
is
the
there-
thing is, so you guys approve it when it's a new position.
Okay,
But we've had previous positions where people leaving and that kind of stuff, so we already had those open positions, we just haven't got them filled.
so were they not budgeted for?
They weren't budgeted for, because we didn't think we would have that many or need that many.
Is that a cost that we anticipated for the budget this coming year? Based
For
on
this
that
year,
need?
yes, because we ran into the issue last year. So
Okay,
we did budget for it this coming year.
okay. That's all
Anything
my
else?
questions on that one.
Anybody else?
I just, on 6.6, I just wanted to say thank you for all the work that went behind updating the appendices on those. It looks much better. I feel much better about it personally. So I know it's taken a lot of work with our consulting group, and I just wanted to express some appreciation that it is much more up to date now than it had been last year. So, thank you.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, is there a motion for 6.11? All
Motion.
right, Ed, second. Melanie? Is there any discussion?
I did have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why 7.7?
Oh, no.
6.11.
We're on 6:11 right
Oh,
now.
I'm
Skipping
sorry.
ahead, there's
My
just the
bad.
one we had to pull out.
Okay, sorry.
No? Okay. Let's roll call it then, Sue.
Okay. Mr. Baker?
Aye.
Mr. Beninati?
Aye.
Mr. Deo?
Aye.
Mrs. Cowney?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Molina,
Aye.
Mrs. Potter?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Personnel consideration, 7.1 through 7.33. Motion for one or more?
Make a motion.
All?
Oh,
All right, motion for all. Matt, second. Melanie, discussion. Jenny, I know you have something.
So 7.5 through 7.8, is there a reason why we're doing them as long-term sub and not a permanent position? Is that what LTS stands for?
Yes, for 7.5, she does not have her certification yet, so we can't appoint her as
Okay, and then for 7.6, 7.7, and 7.8?
Yep,
no
some-
certification.
Yep, and
No
we're
certification.
waiting, most of the folks are.
Are in the process.
Yeah,
So once they receive certification, it will be a permanent, okay, makes sense.
Anything else?
Right, it's not actually related specifically to any of the lines on this, but I did want to follow up. I had asked for an updated vacancy roster so that we are aware of what positions are not yet filled. I know I sent an email last week and again this week, and I haven't heard anything. So I'd really appreciate some follow-up on that so that we have a better understanding of what positions are still lacking as we go into the school year.
I had asked Seth to update it, and my intention was to add it to the board homepage. So that's always there, and you can see the ongoing.
Okay.
We'll make sure that it's on there by tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anything else? All in favor? Aye. Okay, go right to you, Dr. Bailey.
So the board had asked last time to give an update on the heat bill. That's in front of the governor right now, and the single sheet that has a picture of the state in the upper left-hand corner gives a quick summary of that bill. There were a few organizations that were forwarding this, obviously, those that represent teachers in New York State, makes sense, right? And the bill had successfully made it through the Senate and the House. And I think that was June it passed. And it's been waiting with the governor since then. The general parameters are that at a temperature of 82 degrees, there needs to be some form of remediation in the room. And I think one of the reasons why it may be lingering a little bit is the specificity of, in the bill, needs to address probably some additional things. But 82 degrees, there needs to be some form of remediation. 88 degrees, the room needs to be evacuated or not used. And there are still, I know there are a lot of questions being asked, like the process by which temperatures are taken, where in the room the temperature is taken, does it take into consideration humidity? What does remediation mean when we say that? Is it a fan in the window? Is it turning the lights off? There are some things in it they say, like blinds must be closed and things like that. But from what I've read, it looks as though the current legislation gives a window of 15 months to accomplish the task of fully implementing. And as you know, we've been through some construction projects together. 15 months isn't enough to implement a construction project. Some of the articles that were talking about the bill and its progress cited like Mahonison. They their voters approved a construction project recently, and they estimated air conditioning would be about $10 million on top of the project. And if we look back on so they opted not to go that route. If we look back at our $15 million project, the one thing that we did opt to do is to try and future-proof by adding the cooling coils in the air handlers. And Jesse will talk a little more about, bless you, about, someone asked the question, what is a cooling coil, how does it work? It's essentially like a traditional air conditioner. But we try to future-proof so that as we move forward, whether it's required by the bill or if we conscientiously choose, we've had a lot of discussions about air conditioning, that component is at least in place. It still would require rooftop compressors and still plumbing to be done and electrical to be run. But one step closer is important. Right now, we wouldn't be able to do it with any of our existing infrastructure, so having at least the air handlers in place to do it would be helpful. There is no estimation about when the bill would pass or whether the governor will request that there be changes to it prior to its being passed. That's all I know right now.
Okay.
Discussed some specific locations that we're aware of in the buildings that are particularly problematic when it comes to heat. Have we done additional sort of review in general to know if there are other spaces that routinely may be in this situation? I mean, I know we've talked about, some of the spaces in the high school and the art and music classrooms, but have we done an assessment to see what other spaces we need to address for this?
I think it's safe to say every single space in every building that's not currently air-conditioned. You think of a series, over the past 3 years, we've had a series of 90-plus degree days that never got below 85 at night. If there is an air conditioning in a room, there's no way for it to be below, these numbers. So when we experience that intense heat, it is reasonable to say every non-air conditioned space, upstairs, downstairs, sun-facing or not, you just can't cool it down if it doesn't get cool at night.
Okay. And kind of on the same topic, I know we discussed somewhat last time, those particular problematic spaces, and needing to make sure that the buildings have a plan. Do all of the buildings have a definite plan? What are they intending to do if those classrooms are not usable due to the heat? Regardless of this bill, which obviously will change things entirely, but right now, I mean, it's still a problem whether it's in law or not.
Same as we've stated before, if the rooms are unusable, we would find a space that is available, that is usable, or the teacher will move instead of the students moving, so they can do it in whatever space is available to them.
Okay, but do we have space intended for that?
It's different on any day. The schedules change on a daily basis.
I am not thrilled with the response to this whole situation, but if that's all that we have, then that's all that we have.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it is very hard to undo something that's been in place for 50 years. It's hard to do it. And what we did do to do it, what we did do to undo it, is as part of the construction process for the $15 million is in 2022, we started talking about how to air condition the space. Had the state had approved our construction plan in a more timely fashion, it would have been done right now.
Right, but this is something that, as I understand it, has been brought to your attention for many years before I brought it up a full year ago, with the full purpose of that by this time this year, we would have something more solid than what we've been doing in past years, which is not working. So again, I will express that I am not happy with where we are with this right now, but it is what it is, so.
So to review, the construction committee looked at this in 2022. The project was approved by voters in January of 2023, which included air conditioning in the spaces you're speaking of, with the intention that it be in place, approved by the state. It went to the state in early October of 2023. It took almost 9 months for them to review it. We got it back in early June. We immediately went to bid, and there was no way for us to do the air conditioning in the rooms. We could have done a stopgap of $25,000 to $30,000 that we would have thrown out when we did the final construction project. We didn't think that would be fiscally responsible. So instead, we went with what we've been doing for 50 years because we are doing the best that we can with the space that we have in the buildings that we own.
If that's how you feel, that's fine.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said if that's how you feel, that's fine. I do not agree with what you're saying, but we're not going to get anywhere by continuing to hash this out. It is what it is at this point. School starts next week, so.
Just in terms of going forward, I mean, you're right, governor hasn't signed it yet. By all indications, we hear that the governor will sign off. There may be some modifications. It does have September 1st, 2025 as a date, so I appreciate that. I didn't know that last time coming in, so we have until next September. But we do have a district health and safety committee, right? I'd like to see that become robust this year, and let's take this opportunity to have not only the committee be robust, but their discussion and planning be robust. So should she pass it, we do have a plan in place, because it does list 88 as a max for attendance, as Jackie's talking about. And we know, just for example, having spent all the time up there, that back hall wing gets well over that in the beginning and end of the year. So we're not talking about dumping a class or two, it's a lot. So hopefully I'd request that we use that Health and Safety Committee to really look hard at that and what our plans could be, with the assumption it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
So if this is passed as is and takes effect next September 1st, then by that date, we have to have thermometers in every classroom? Is that the concept, that every occupied room has to be measured?
Well, they are now.
They are now.
gonna
Yeah,
answer Brian, but
it's
yeah.
all connected to the main network, the AC, the HVAC. They know what the temperatures are in rooms.
In individual classrooms?
Yes.
Yeah, we have a whole system that can turn on and off. The whole thing is run on computer.
It modulates the cold air, fresh air intake, well, it's all cold
Fresh
air. It modulates the amount of fresh air coming into classrooms to an extent, because we're still required to have a certain amount of fresh air, but it can modulate it, knowing that, like at night, opening it 100% to bring in cool air during the day, limiting it to the lowest amount. But a discussion about that, like in the committee and talking about, and it would include, like, to be quite frank, like the high school is a perfect example, and it's not a pleasant conversation to have with folks, but our population has gone down probably 300 students since I came in 2010. What that has created is we have a lot of classrooms that are not used 9 periods a day. If we have spaces that we know are never going to be above 82 degrees, we use them 9 periods a day, and we abandon some of, some of the things that we would talk about in the committee.
Yeah.
It doesn't make life easier for staff, it doesn't make life easier for students, but those kinds of things, like to stopgap until we have a more robust construction project or some other way to remediate.
Yeah.
There's some ways around.
I won't
Yeah,
belabor it
I'm
much
just,
long.
I was just gonna say, I'm just concerned, knowing how long things can take. You know, the requirement on the bill here is that the temperature be measured in a central location in the room 3 feet off the floor, which is absurdly specific,
It
right?
is,
And
yes.
maybe that'll be subject to some chapter amendment by the governor, I don't know. But if that remains the requirement, then are we equipped to do that by next September?
There are 700 school districts that have no idea how they would.
That's what we hope to see them clear up. Having been the energy manager here, I can tell you that
Yeah.
when this building opened in 2004, this particular room that we're in, as staff, we complained like crazy that it was freezing cold, right? Whether it be the winter or summer, it was freezing cold. Even the board complains sometimes when there are meetings in here. The measurement is back over there behind Brian on the
Right,
wall. That's
yeah,
where it's measured, not in the center of the room.
Right.
So the blowers are above us in the ceiling, so if
Yep.
you're sitting under it, you're getting freezing cold. So we're hoping some of that gets clarified before she signs it, before the end of the year. But then it only leaves us 6 months, or 9 months rather, excuse me.
And then does SED normally issue some type of guidance when there's legislation like this to give some implementation
What will
guidelines?
happen is the regulation will require that they do. They're going to have to interpret and figure out levels of enforcement and,
What happens, so assuming that all this happens, and the price tag is astronomical, and the voters say no, we can't spend that money.
we have to close school.
You can't use those rooms when they're above 88. Yeah, that's what it-
That may be an offshoot of what happens.
Wow, okay.
I know, listen,
Same thing with
So-
like the
so-
electric.
there's a lot of unknowns still.
I guess I never appreciated that rooms were being continuously monitored for temperature.
Yeah.
Because I've asked before where the hotspots are, and nobody was like, oh, it's this room, and this room. So do we have any, I don't know if that information is recorded, but is there any data that will tell us
I don't know.
where the hotspots are?
I'm sure Bill can pull data
Yeah.
to tell us which rooms are hotter and which aren't, yeah. But again, it could be skewed, right? Because like Matt mentioned.
Right.
It could be off to the side over here, and is that really giving an accurate temperature read?
Well, maybe it gives us at least a starting point to know
Right,
if our
no, I get
problem
it.
is
We
like
can-
10 classrooms or 100 classrooms. Yeah.
Right, and
I
that,
also think it could potentially be more accurate within a classroom. I mean, this is a huge
Yeah, absolutely.
space in comparison to a classroom, so I would
Right.
hope that it would be more accurate within
Right.
that setting.
But also, I've seen them like, if they're in direct sunlight.
right.
That's good, that one spot's gonna be a lot hotter, right?
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of things, and I know my group, when I say my group, other business administrators have seen this already, and have already been advocating for certain things and that kind of stuff, so it's definitely out there, there's definitely discussions happening, about the requirements, so they're definitely gonna hear, at least from our group, I'm sure the superintendents are doing the same thing, saying how problematic this is gonna be.
Right, yeah.
or at the very least, give us information that we can work with that's solid and tactile, with a timeline. And funding would be great too, to try and remediate it.
Yeah, no, the concept is great, but some of the requirements here are very specific that could be hard to implement.
The data you're talking about, Mike, is exactly the data that the Health and Safety Committee would look at.
Yeah, okay.
I'll seek to find out if we have some historical data on it.
It's also not easy to navigate, but NYSED, NYSED website, if you go to the Office of Facilities and Planning page, all those very particular regulations are on there. Obviously, they don't have them.
Right, yeah.
If you're ever interested,
Right,
anybody's
yeah,
interested.
right now
If
at our
anybody's interested,
disposal,
it's light
the o-
reading.
the only regulation in place is the room can't be cooler than 65.
Right.
So they have the minimum temperature, but they're establishing, working to establish. So we know that there's practice in place where we've lived with that for decades. And there are times when, because of failures of equipment or a window left open, we've had to evacuate and use different spaces when that occurs too. This is a little harder to.
That's usually targeted, unfortunately, and this is just whole wings and stuff, so
Yeah,
it's different.
or a building if the power goes out or there's some other issue.
I imagine we'll have to put a policy in place
Yes,
speaking to this.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
We had a discussion about the branding guide at the last meeting, and I handed you a packet. Oh, there's two things. You have the new branding guide, that's the pretty colored thing here, which I did share digitally a few days ago. This is just a quick recounting from Michelle on the top, this cover page with hyperlinks on it. I know, I talked about the branding guide, now you have to look at the pictures. So the other packet that has a stapled piece of paper on the cover. This is what we've discovered. There are lots of places who have something like our branding, the current branding, the Indians branding. Some version of RCS with whatever font they have, and there's no relationship with the district. They're just selling our stuff. And no question that as we walk around the district now, I mean, it's been, well, 70 years, almost 70 years since the Indians came to pass. There are 100,000 different iterations of the word Indians, the images that you see, the spear, there's a lot of different iterations. What Michelle was capturing here on the cover of this other packet, not the branding guide, is that we haven't had ownership over our brand in 70 years. Everybody else has. And it makes it, it waters down the I don't want to say purity of it, but, you know, you see the Yankees. This is the argument I was saying with BSN the other day. Our branding guide shouldn't have RCS in 75 different fonts. Think of the Yankees. There are 2 ways you see that name consistently, or the Mets. There's just certain ways you see the name. We don't want 75 different fonts. We want the fonts that we agreed to, and everybody's wearing the same. We live together. We're in the same district. So that's why we were being so conscientious about how we distributed this. And we had a good discussion last time about why it's important to distribute it, right? To create the same thing. Everyone's using the same thing. So there's 4 on the top there that we have no relationship with, but they're selling our branding. There's another website there with our apparel. We have an agreement with Val's. They've been producing our uniforms, like our maintenance staff and our bus drivers. Their clothes come from Val's. So there's a store in Val's that they sell this branding right here, this one, which is our business side. When you see uniforms on our staff, that's what it says. And then BSN and Jostens, we've given them our branding guide because BSN does a lot of our uniform work. They're the ones who did the screening on our front doors. Jostens does our rings. They sell some other things. They've been good and not so good about getting rid of all the other stuff. We've been asking for a while for them to get rid of all the Indian stuff so that there's not any confusion there. And they've kind of stop-started. They've got sometimes the new branding next to the old branding. We're trying to fix all of that with them. But we met with some reps from BSN yesterday. And the last thing on here are some other school districts that Michelle's been speaking with. Cooksaki Athens trademarked their new Riverhawks, and they have a board policy behind it. Shelmont trademarked with a board policy. Bethlehem has some regret about how their brand has been used and distributed. You see the list there. So one thing that we absolutely want to recommend is that when the policy committee comes back together, we should establish a policy around how we expect it to be used. That's similar to what's in the branding guide, which is we expect you to use it respectfully on items that are appropriate, things like that. The second page is what the web page will look like when it goes live. It's a description of how we expect it to be used. There's a short list. They're permitted to be used on clothing, apparel, and wearables, spirit novelties, and they should not be used in reference to political parties, inappropriate or offensive language, etc. So just a general guideline for what we'd like to see around that. But again, we'll be handing it over to everybody in the universe who can use it. They can, in China, they can mass produce stuff using our brand. And we never know what people will put it on. Those are hyperlinks on the bottom of the page. The rebranding guide is there. I'm sorry, I should call it the branding guide. Athletic logos and files, and I'll show you a list of what they are. Approved district colors, which is relevant. These are our district colors on the cover of the branding guide, and district fonts. And then on the next page is what we intend to put on the website. So all of these objects and the words will be publicly available to folks. That's what the files will be inside a Google folder. There's a list on the next page of what that looks like. It has folders that are identified as full athletics logo that says Ravens, athletic word marks, which is Ravens. You get the idea. And the branding guide is there as well. So the public will have this in every iteration. You can see that there's one here that if you just wanted an outline and you wanted the clothing to show through, that works that way. And it's easy for people to change colors of things like that if they needed to change the colors of them. And the last two things are just example policies from Cooksaki and Shenandoah that I would like to consider at the policy committee when we get to that point. So in essence, the whole branding guide will be on the website. These files for these will be readily available, so someone who wants to make a shirt for their child, they'll have our actual brand, and they'll be able to do that. The win is everyone will look the same. They're not making it up, right?
When will this go live on the website?
Tomorrow.
I love this. I think you did a fantastic job on it. I think it looks amazing, and it's absolutely everything.
Michelle and our designers at BOCES, she worked her tail off.
I can so appreciate the hard work that went into this, and it looks amazing.
We had a leadership meeting, what day? Last Thursday. I made them give Michelle a standing ovation.
Yes, I 100%, if she's watching, I would agree. It looks beautiful. It is everything.
Not only did she do this, you just got your chalkboard, the summer newsletter in the mail. I put the calendars on she's doing all of this, all in the air, all at once. So she has really done exemplary work.
That's great. It was a very short turnaround too from our last meeting, so.
Yeah,
Thank you
I'm
very
so
much.
impressed. I can't say enough, thank you.
A lot of sleepless nights for her. So thank you. She will readily accept the compliment. New teacher orientation was today. We had 18 new staff in this room, and it was amazing. Yesterday and today, basically, they worked with us for 7.5 hours in different ways. We started each day in here. All the leaders did different activities with them, different professional development. They had yesterday afternoon in their buildings. Today they had lunch with the union, and then more time in their buildings. And everybody, we have elementary teachers and physics teachers and science teachers and language teachers, technology teachers. It is a big, valuable, excited, and in a lot of cases experienced group. So we are so happy that kids are going to be walking back in the classrooms in great hands with the people that we've been working with these last couple of days. And each building will do something to help introduce the staff to their communities. Yeah.
Long-term subs included in those? They were.
Yeah, they were
Okay,
here as well.
awesome. I know that they're potentially new employees, so that's
Right.
awesome.
And in fact, a couple of them, 3 that participated this summer were folks that were hired last year, but
Yeah.
missed it, so.
Good,
Hired late. Yeah.
awesome. I'm glad they were included. Thank you.
And the last thing, I wanted to talk about opening days of school. Jean sent out the schedule to all staff yesterday, and I mentioned to the board that we're doing our convocation first thing in the morning, 8 o'clock on Tuesday. So if any of you are able to stop in, we expect it to be a half hour, 35 minutes. We'll be recognizing longevity, staff who've been here 10, 20, 25, and 30 years. We'll be recognizing tenure. Mike, you're going to be there, right? Mike will be giving a 45-minute speech, and 4:25, I'm sorry, is it 45? And it's, for those of you who've done it, it's awe-inspiring to see the sum total of our staff in one place at one time. It's basically the only time, any time of the year, where you can see them, and the energy in the room, you know.
So will everybody be there, including maintenance and transportation and everybody? Okay.
Everything stops for that small window of time.
Okay. Thank you.
So please do join us if you can. You don't have to let us know, but what I would say is please seek us out when you get there, because we want to acknowledge you and have you stand and have people put a face to the name if they haven't already done that. And usually that's like everybody, all the staff are sitting on both sides, and there's a podium in the middle with some chairs next to it. We won't make you sit in chairs. I know we won't make you sit in chairs up front, but we'll save a space on the side where you can, you know, sit nearby. But please do if you come, if you can make it. And that's it.
Just remember the balloons at the podium this year.
Mike was being attacked by balloons the entire time. When they did the signing for the athletics, they had balloons on the table. Every single seat had balloons on it. It was the same exact chaos, believe me. Good point.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Jean?
Just a couple of updates. One, pre-K enrollment, we are at, we're full still at A.W. Becker. There's one student on the wait list. We are full at Peter B., but there are 2 spots still left at Circle of Friends. So we've been in contact with the family that's on the wait list to see if they are interested in going there instead. With providing transportation to it, it should be something that families could potentially, you know, benefit from. We finished up our extended school year. That's for our students with disabilities that ended back on the 16th. We have gotten some feedback has been shared with me from families about the quality of the program and the benefit of having it back here. So, because prior to that, all of our ESY students were sent out for services and other programs.
And that's extended school year for our students with disabilities.
For our students with disabilities
Those
who
who have
qualify for that.
12-month instruction.
And I just want to thank everyone from Colleen initiating the process to apply to state ed for it, and everyone that worked tirelessly around making sure that we had the budget and we got the staffing, and then the teachers that were hired, and the leadership within the program over the course of the 6 weeks was really incredible. And I think this was a first year of success, and we kind of have a high bar now to hit. So just kudos to them.
Having our kids in district is exactly what we should be doing. So making it possible, it was just, the families were just so happy that their kiddos were here in the buildings in the district, in the building in the district.
And then just some updates that are right around the corner. Tomorrow is 6th grade orientation. That is from 10 to 11, I think. I have to look at my calendar. Pre-K and K welcome start is all day tomorrow. Families were invited for, they have a schedule of invites so they can come in small groups and meet with the teachers. And that's the last day they can go down the driveway at A.W. Becker this week. And 9th grade orientation is actually on September 4th, and that's for students only, but the students will be coming in, and we do have lunch for them. And then we did also build into those first 2 days on September 4th, the second day, there's an opportunity for elementary families to do a walkthrough at the elementary buildings, drop off supplies, say hi to the teachers, and kind of just get a quick orientation. So good things coming up. Yeah.
Of times, do parents need to arrange transportation if they need it, or will the buses automatically be going around to all 9th grade families?
That's an excellent
I
question.
said I would ask tonight. I don't.
I'm going to have to,
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a great answer. Thank you.
I think the magic of that 9th grade orientation is it is the opportunity for the staff to do a hard run on what the regular routes would be. But we'll check and we'll
Okay,
make sure that that's
okay.
sent out.
Some people asked, and I said, I have a 9th grader, I should probably know that, but I don't, so I will ask.
thought that the letter said that transportation would be provided,
It
no?
did, but then I wasn't sure if it was automatically provided or if we needed to request it be provided. And then some parents were saying, oh, I'm going to drive my kid anyway, so I just thought that I would clarify.
I think what they're going to do, and were you going to say something, Jeff?
No, I was just gonna say we can definitely find out exactly
Yeah.
what it is and
Okay.
make sure the parents know.
It's likely that
yeah.
it's just the bus drivers will leave the transportation department, do the regular route, and if there's a ninth grader there.
That's kind of what
they'll
I
get on the
thought.
bus.
Okay,
Yeah, because it'd
nice to
be
have
even
them.
harder for them to like do something different on Tuesday and then try and do the full one on Wednesday.
right.
But we'll find
Okay.
out and we'll send that out.
Okay, thank you.
I think the elementary school walkthrough is wonderful. I'm super excited about that for people. So that's wonderful.
And that's it for me.
All right, thanks, Jean. Jesse?
I want to give a few updates on things we discussed. I think Brian alluded to a few of them, and so did Jean, so thanks for taking my stuff, guys. I guess it's the benefit of going third, right? We talked about the high school HVAC project upstairs, and I said there was one part of it that we didn't know exactly what it was, if we had enough ampage to be able to take it. So we had a couple conversations, Bill and I, with the engineers, and we believe we have enough amps. We have a 2,000 amp system, and we should have plenty enough for that. The issue that we're going to have is the capacity in the panels to be able to have all these additional lines. And Bill gave me a whole detailed description of it, and I'm like, I'm not reading that. So basically, it's when you have a cabinet, in your house, it has a certain amount of panels in there. We have a certain amount of panels that will fit for the service. So they said we cannot fit because you need additional lines for all this stuff. So we would have to look into adding additional panels, where that's gonna be, additional lines. They don't have that information right now, but there will be a cost to that. So that would be in addition to that 350,000 number that I provided for you guys before. If that's something down the line where we would like to put that into a capital project, they're more than happy to do, but there is a cost to looking into that. So that's kind of where we are with that project. Kind of give you a little bit more on the univent cooling. Again, Bill gave me this super detailed explanation. I'm like, you're speaking a different language to me. Basically what it is, it works, these univents will work exactly like they do over at the middle school, and basically like our air conditioner in your home. What it will do is it will grab the warm air out of the classroom, it will send it up to the condenser, wherever it is, and then it will send back the cool air and out. So it's pretty simple, just like a regular air conditioner. So A.W. Becker, we met back for the playground. We met back on the 15th. We're good to go. The committee liked the design that we got. So we have plans we've already placed the order to move forward with a new main playground. Where the old playground is now at A.W. Becker, we're going to be removing that one and putting that there. So the removal of the old playground will be in a day or two. So that will be perfectly safe for everybody to be by the start of school. And then once the new playground comes in, hopefully in November, hopefully the snow holds off, we'll be putting that in that location right there.
Are you talking about the pre-K playground?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I was like, wait, we already got a new playground.
Yeah, oh
Okay.
yeah, this is
Okay.
the
So the
additional
old
new
playground
playground.
will be gone.
So that old playground, like that's closest to the parking lot.
Okay.
The older one, that will be gone, and we've already talked to the pre-K teachers and also the principal, and they're okay with it for the short period of time. They will continue to use the one that they have. And then they're very happy, excited about the new one coming in November.
Will the new one that's coming in be accessible for just pre-K, or is it age appropriate for like kindergarten or first grade?
I think it's 3 to 5 age, so,
No.
yeah, but the other one is appropriate for the.
Oh, yeah.
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 Where the old one is, the new one's going, the pre-K one we're going?
Yes.
In that same
Yep.
spot? Okay.
Yep, same spot, yeah. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put down rubber mulch this time. So we're gonna put this rubber mulch down, and what this is kind of the first step to get that hard rubber. If you looked at the other two elementary schools, in the new locations, we have the hard rubber there. which is great for drainage. It's also safer for the kids that has a higher fall. I guess fall, the able impact is better on the kids than chips. So we'll have this rubber in here already, and all we have to do, it's a lower cost. When we're ready to take on that cost, they come in and they put it all there and they glue it all together. So we'll get that hard base. So we're already one step to using that hard, kind of safer mold. So A.W. Becker, I don't know if anyone's been over there. They've already milled out the old driveway. It's gone. And if I use the wrong terminology, please let me know. I forgot you were on the board. And they put the first binding down, is that it? Binder?
They
The
call it
first-
binder or base.
Right, okay, so they put the base down first. And so that has kind of a smooth surface, but if you go there, you'll still see there's a couple more inches. So the final round and will be the final smoother thing will be on Friday. And that's where we've already told all the teachers and everybody in the building that, hey, there's gonna be no access just for those days. So they've actually done the parking lot on the side and the front entryway. So it's great. So it should be all done by August 30th, and then painted and ready to go for start of school. So a nice smooth entrance in there. Last, I do want to mention the Geo Alerts system, which is with our Stop Finder app through the transportation department, is active, and it's been out there for, it's been sent out to all the parents. I know we're going to have a little bit of a learning curve. I've used it. I thought it was pretty simple. But please encourage people to get this app and use it. It is awesome. I've used it already with my kids. You can literally see the bus, where it is, and it's super active. So, and I use it with my son. He has a tough time waiting out there, but I know the bus is coming. All right, let's go. And he doesn't wait outside. He goes right to the bus. So I think it's going to be great. It's also, parents aren't going to be worried, where's the bus, where's the bus? So transportation will get fewer phone calls. I'm trying to attend different, like I'm going over 6th grade orientation. We're going to mention if anybody has any questions or concerns. I'm more than happy to walk it through with people. Hey, you've got this new system. You have any questions about it? I've used it a lot already. So to get them set up with it.
So if you already have the app, will
Yeah,
it
you already have
just
it.
appear?
Yep, it's there.
Yeah, I got
If you want to, I'm
notifications.
happy to show you when we're done with
I
this.
just turned off the notifications.
Okay.
Didn't
Well, I
always
can
need
show
to
you,
know,
I
but
can
I
show
can turn
you,
them back
I
on.
can show you where the geo alerts are on
Okay.
there. It's very simple. We've sent out different tutorials on how to do it, but I'm trying to get out there and talk to people so it makes it easier for everybody.
So all the buses are set up with that?
Yes,
Yeah,
yep, every run, every main run. We're working on possibly doing for field trips as well and sports trips. I would love to know where my kid is, so I don't have to wait in the parking lot.
Yeah.
We haven't figured that out exactly, but we're trying to get to that point, because I think that would be awesome for parents as well.
And will all the students need to swipe?
We're still working on that process.
Okay.
That's more we wanted to get this out first.
Yeah.
And then the timing of our previous director leaving and our new coming on has kind of slowed down our process, but we're gonna get through the first couple weeks of school here and make sure that's locked down, and then that's gonna be our priority, get that.
Yeah, no,
going
thanks
as
for
well.
getting this in place before the school year. That's great.
Yeah, I really wanted to get those geo alerts too, because I really enjoy it with my kids, so I hope everybody else. And if people don't have it, please tell them to call, and because it's a great app. Call the transportation director, and they're more than happy to set you up. All it is set you a link, you download the app, and you're good to go. Your kids will already be set up in there, so you'll be good to go.
It's great. Thanks, Jesse.
Yep.
Jesse, so I did put my eyeballs on that. They're doing it right with the base and the binder. They dug it out. And anytime you see that, you know that they're doing it the right way. And it makes a perfect surface for the 2-inch top coat that'll be going. So
Awesome.
kudos to them.
Yeah, and they did it real quick turnaround, so it's great. And we made that a
I did
priority,
go by
knowing how
it.
bad that entrance was.
Those are, as you look at the conditions of some of our other parking lots and roadways, to Dan's point, you can see that that is not how things were necessarily done.
No, that should last us a long time.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, glad to hear it. That's all I got.
All right, thanks, Jesse.
I'm sorry, can I just want to go back to the Brandon for just one
Yeah.
second. I just have a quick question. On the websites on that front page, there's the RCS High School Indians Athletics page. Is that something that's, I'm sorry, it was on the document that has all the links on the front of it.
Oh, top one.
That, the RCS High School Indians Athletics page, it says it has team scores and sells business logo apparel. Is that a site that's run by the district in some way, or is that like an independent site that's run by someone else?
Not us.
Are we able to ask them to, I know that it is annoying to update your web address, however, we're not the Indians anymore.
not us.
And the top of their website also says RCS Indians. So I don't know, obviously, if it's an outside entity, we don't necessarily have control here, but if they're able to update their website so that it is in line with the rest of this branding, I think that would be helpful. Especially if they're posting, you know, the information on all of our sports teams, we would obviously want that to be in line with the rest of our branding.
It's been a fascinating experience because we're dealing with companies that, well, they've shown all of our branding. They have our business branding on their page too.
I saw, yeah.
This is what, by the way, appropriating someone's identity looks like, just so you know.
I never
Anyway,
knew this existed. I mean, this is handy for checking scores. I was never.
Yeah, I had no idea this website existed, to be perfectly honest.
Schedules. I've always
No
gone to like
idea.
Max Preps to look for stuff and, yeah.
Yeah,
What's that? Oh, it's blocking you?
It's blocking you? That's interesting. It did not block me from going to it.
just
I
you.
just put the I can't spell.
Oh, that'll do it.
Okay, we're in the rabbit hole. We're in the rabbit hole.
Okay, I certainly won't hold you to it. Obviously, if it's an outside entity, we don't necessarily have control, but if we're able to, you know, if they're going to continue to post our, you know,
Yes.
team's information, looking like a reliable source of some kind, it would be helpful if they at least were
Be scary.
updated.
This is an independent company that prides itself in connecting communities by celebrating sports. Anyway, so I was going to say, even working with the companies that we genuinely have a relationship with, we're having one heck of a time. Just change it. Just take down one thing, put up the other things. But they work with, some of them work with so many different organizations, and it's basically pre-AI. Like what they gave us had 160 different iterations, and some of the members of the previous board were on fire because you could order a logo that said RCS, RCS, RCS on it because the computer is designing the thing. I said, well, just don't buy that one, but it looks bad. 160
yeah.
different fonts, wrong thing. So
Yeah.
Michelle and I went through the 160 and got it down to like 35 and
Sure.
asked them to please get rid of all the rest of the junk. They're having trouble adhering to it, and we're talking to a human. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, it
But
could be a tough sell. I understand that. I will certainly understand if there's nothing we can do, but
Michelle's on it.
at
She-
least worth
she's
asking.
genuinely trying to, she's doing the right thing by reaching out to each of them and saying, here's the,
Yeah.
this is what we want.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, though. And now I'm sorry I saw their site. Now I can't unsee it.
Yeah, it's less than ideal, but I mean,
Or anything to choose from,
Right.
if you actually click on anything.
oh, you can go to like the individual sports teams and then just get like a shirt that says like RCS and then just literally says bowling underneath it. Like that's what it means. Like you have to go to like each individual sports one and then it goes to the different, but it's an interesting website that clearly none of us knew existed, so thank you for bringing that to our attention.
I will say though, those spammers, I don't care if you have stuff out there or not. I mean, you even put private events up and somehow they hack in and get things.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
The PTSO page for our upcoming fundraiser, every single day I have to go in there and delete scammers. So it's just everywhere.
It's their full-time job,
It's
right?
awful.
All right. Do we have any items in new business? All right, let's look at the old items of old business then. We can take the branding guidelines off. Sue, that's completed. Thank you. Brian and team. Team being Michelle. Yeah.
Michelle.
Anything else on this list here that anybody would like to discuss?
The middle,
Old business.
the middle school. It's on here?
Middle school discipline plan?
Well, sort of. Then in regards to Trying to think, would it be under old business, talk about the upcoming year, the expectations, the letter that went out? Would that be under that, or?
Yeah, let's do it now.
So, still have a concern with the upcoming year. Back in May, when we asked the middle school to present to the board, and we talked about setting expectations, there seemed to be two parts to it. They informed us that they purchased a new behavioral program, which they would start and implement in the fall, which was great, and that it would report back to us in October. But we also talked about setting the tone and getting control of the building and setting expectations. Committees were supposedly meeting over the summer to derive those expectations, and then they were going to be presented when they were ready to the families and the board. And I haven't seen that. This letter is talking about upcoming and the new implementation and the new program that was purchased. I don't know if anyone looked at it. It's very promising. It's a version of PBIS and of stuff that we should already be doing, but it's in a different direction. But as far as setting the expectations and the directional change in tone for the students and the expectations starting day one, I'm concerned. I haven't seen that addressed, and I haven't seen that presented. So I'm just wondering what the direction is, what the directional change is, and what is setting the tone of the expectations and the consequences in the behavioral starting day one.
Okay.
Because we know we asked for that. And I thought that was what they were doing over the summer, establishing those expectations in the committees and having that ready to hit the ground running on day one. This seems to be an iteration of in explaining what they're going to be doing based on this SEL program, which implementing in school, which I think is a great idea, and that's part of the component. But the other part of the component about what has been going on and how they're going to get control of it, I'm struggling with the confidence that I understand how they're going to do that, if that makes sense to anybody.
The components that I know of and were partially explained in the letter, but some of it not, is the middle school staff is doing training in those opening days on this respectful ways. And that's a day one implementation. They'll have, either be made aware of skills that they're already using that are proactive in helping to address these issues, or they'll be informed of things that maybe they're not doing yet. All students, they do assemblies for all students when they arrive. So in the first few days of school, either the first day, probably not the first day, but within the first few days of school, they do assemblies with all students. I'm positive that the conversations they'll have with the students will be in alignment with what the staff learned in the opening days, adhering to the code of conduct.
So I guess setting the tone is my area of concern. The code of conduct is out there, and these things have always been expected, right? I mean, but students don't read the code of conduct, and parents typically, I mean, unless they have to encounter a situation with their child, I don't know how many parents openly read the code of conduct. So this has all been out there, and what was been doing obviously has not been working. So I'm just concerned about what is the directional change from the administration and setting the tone that we're aware of these behaviors, these are ongoing issues, and making it known to parents and students that in a more sterner way that that type of behavior is not going to be tolerated. Setting the tone from day one, because if you start off soft and then try to go strong, it's not going to work. Has that direction been established? I understand teachers are going to be trained, but has the directional shift and the expectations, are they going to be made known to the parents and to the students prior to school, at day one? Because this is very good, and I'm confident that when they train that it's going to take time to implement. But I think that it shouldn't be like these things won't be accepted. They never were accepted. But I think they have to set the tone and make it known that going forward this year, this is your expectations, and this is what's going to occur. Even before the teachers are trained on how to implement new conflict resolutions and things like that. Because the emotional part of it, you know, there's always a reason why a student is doing something. And after it's done, you figure out why they did it and you try to resolve it that way going forward. But that's only one aspect of it. That's only one aspect of it. I mean, having students walk around thinking about how they constantly feel all day long wouldn't be a very good thing and a very wise thing to do either. You know, feelings are different than thinking. So I'm just concerned that we asked for the acknowledgement and directional change from staff starting day one, and what are the expectations going to be, and that being demonstrated, and I haven't really seen that. Now, if they're going to have an assembly day one, that's fine, but you know, we're not made aware of that. Students may go through that, but as parents, I don't know about anybody else here, but my kid never comes home and says, hey, we had assembly and about, you know, expectations and things like that. So I just want to make sure that some types of directional shift from the top down is going to be implemented.
So there's a list of things that are in the letter here. We discussed a couple more things. What is frequently done is after we have these opening day assemblies with students, especially if it's one around topics of expectation, behavioral expectation, academic expectation, it's an assembly around bomb threats, you know, someone's writing bomb threats in the bathroom, or about bullying, is that immediately afterward sending a communication with the families. This is what we discussed today. Please follow up with your child. That will be a component of this as well. Because I agree with you, students don't come home and say, I was celebrated or I was chastised today, or I ate a peanut butter sandwich. They don't talk about most anything. But unquestionably, the middle school knows that this is a priority. It is a unquestionable priority from the first day. There is not going to be any opening of let's just experiment and wait and see what happens. It's a very, all the discussions from the spring and through the summer have been about very pointed, directed, trying to remap what some students' beliefs and expectations are. That all students should feel safe, and those students that are doing something that is not right are going to be held accountable. But know that, and the spotlight's on them. The middle school, the staff and the leadership, they know that there's some work to be done. They're going to, I guarantee you, they're going to let students know that from the first day.
So I guess the context around that, right? I mean, like you just explained to us, they have the context of making decisions, but the context is not being, I don't think, was being relayed. So like you said, it's good to hear that an assembly, and when they're told the expectations, that a letter or some type of communication will go out to parents. Because if we don't know that's happening, I certainly didn't know things like that were happening. But does the building have the resources that they need to be able to implement different aspects of this? Do they have the personnel that they need? I guess that would be a question.
Yeah, I can back you up with that one a little bit. Say, you know, I don't need to know the answer right now, obviously, Brian, but I happened to walk in the spring into that public area, you know, where the window is, and there was a parent came in at the same time, and you can see into that conference room in the back of the middle room, and there were some children, I know it was lunch detention or ISS, but there were 4 young boys in there, no adult supervision, whipping stuff at each other. I saw it, the mother saw it, this other mother that was there. And I asked the staff members, what the heck's going on? And they said that was a daily occurrence. It was a one-off, something happened, whatever, but like this was their ISS, just throw the kids in a room with no supervision. So those are kind of things I think we're getting at that when you talk about, do we have enough staff? My understanding was, you know, well, we have nobody to watch them, okay? So making sure that plans are in place this year to ensure that not only are we doing whatever we need to do disciplinary-wise when kids do act out, but they're properly supervised, and probably not, you know, in the public eye either, so it can be, everything can be seen, but make sure we have the staff to cover them, and if not, then they have to stay in their classes, but not leaving them unattended to, just, you know,
Well, so.
go at it with each other.
The
So
next
maybe
question
that's
would
the
be,
staff question we're talking
if the
about.
staff, if they did, because I understand that. If they don't, and they don't have that, is there ISS at the high school? So if there's a supervised staff person at the high school and they don't have it available at the middle school, wouldn't it be beneficial then to send those students to the high school? It would be better to have them in a classroom with adult supervision for our ISS than in a classroom without adult supervision in the middle school. As a matter of safety and a matter of issue, if they don't have the available staffing there, and we do have an allocated ISS staff person here, then why wouldn't we move and sign in there? They're in the high school. It's not ideal, but they're in with another adult and they're being supervised. That seems like a better alternative than sticking them in a room with no adult supervision, with whoever walks by looks in on them from time to time. Do we have the capability to do that?
We may.
Okay. So maybe we could look into that as a solution. If they don't have, I don't know what their staffing capability is, but if they don't have that, it just seems like that would be a better alternative to be supervised at all times in ISS. So, you know, as far as staffing issues, I just want to make sure that, I know Jackie's asked for just to be updated on open positions. And I don't know what the staffing levels are because I haven't seen that yet. So I guess when we do see that, it'll give us some better indications. And if for some reason any building is understaffed and for some reason they can't get staff, then maybe we can explore, I don't know what they were, but alternate alternatives to see how to get bodies in the building. Whether it's through volunteer services, there's plenty of services. I don't want to say plenty, but there are some services in other districts of retirees and retired dads and things like that, where they do that and they volunteer and they obviously have to go through training and they come in and they're in the halls of schools and things like that, acting as volunteers. That may be a way to possibly get more supervision in the buildings. If we have a lacking, I don't know, because I don't know what the numbers are. But I think there may be ways to, and other things to look into. And I think we should. Possibly so. Okay.
Fact, so this letter that was attached to the email that you had sent to us, from Denise to all the parents and guardians for middle school students, this is dated yesterday. When is it going out to families? Because as a middle school parent, I did get an email from the middle school as a welcome back, but it is not this. And I just like scrolled through it and I don't see even it linked, let alone in a prominent place. So this document, although it may be very nice in providing this information, as a middle school parent, I don't see that I've received it.
It was supposed to have been sent yesterday, so.
It wasn't. As a middle school parent, I didn't get it.
Hold on, no, I got it, hold on.
In snail mail or?
It was sent,
I got a letter from the middle school.
yesterday I did get a RCS middle school welcome letter.
Yes, it's not this.
No, but most of it's in the body of the letter. Hold on one second.
Most of this information is not in that letter.
Keep talking about email sent, I'm not sure which one it was.
And I mean, maybe it's buried in
No,
here
it's not
somewhere,
the,
but,
you're right, it's not the actual letter.
Yeah.
right, but I didn't see it even, I mean, certainly not in any prominent place that someone will actually click on and read.
This letterhead is incorrect with your name, Jean. It says Regina.
Yeah, the exact letter was not,
Is it? Oh, okay.
Right, so this letter that was shared with us as the board is not what was shared with families.
if it is in here, I can't see the link. It talks about, continue to foster culture there's certain aspects of the letter in here, but it's
Yeah,
not the
it's not
actual-
this.
It's not this actual letter.
Right, this letter did not, like I said, as a parent, I did not get this.
I'll find out. We were in new teacher orientation all day today and yesterday, but it was supposed to have gone out yesterday.
Okay, and while we're on the subject of communications going, I know I had sent you an email with a couple of questions that you responded to, but one of my questions was about sending kind of a formal notification to all the families of the admin changes that have happened this year. You know, that Mr. Doran has moved to the A.W. Becker, and I mean, obviously, all of us are very aware, but I think a lot of times in the summer, parents aren't necessarily paying attention to those things. I know in your email, you said that something was going out yesterday, but again, I haven't gotten anything. So, and I know I've had parents ask me about if there'll be some kind of introduction of the new assistant principal in the middle school. But I also know that's not the only admin change that we've had. So I think it would be nice for families to have some sort of introduction to the new admin that'll be overseeing their kids' schools. And I think it'll be nice for, you know, those admin to also have some sort of, you know, acknowledgement to the whole district and not necessarily just in, you know, the board information and teacher information.
While we're still in the middle school, two things. Part of the letter that went out to families yesterday was a reiteration of the cell phone policy in the middle school, which is, it worked last year and is a good thing. But I do wonder, and I'd have to go back to our policy manual. But in the aspect of that, even with other districts, there are still policies in situations in which students are still allowed to have their cell phone, different policies. One regarding if they have to have it for administration of a medication, or two, some of those policies are yonder bags. Students with high anxiety levels, or some students are allowed to carry their phones. There's certain aspects and that's all in the yonder, in those policies like that. Do we have anything like that for students right now, or is there just a blank ban on phones? Are there exceptions that could be made?
Of course, yeah. the
Okay.
Students with medical needs.
Or whatever could be
And we have
addressed, because we don't have a policy, so I was just asking, that's all.
We have a handful in the district who have.
And then, in regards to backpacks, I saw in the 8th grade supply list. And when I looked at it, first of all, the students there don't have time to get to their lockers. There's 3 minutes in between. They carry everything around with them all day. High school, they carry their backpacks. They can't have them in the middle school. There's, on the 8th grade list, there's three ring binders on there, plus everything. You cannot possibly carry three ring binders and everything else on that list around all day. It's not feasibly possible. Why can't, if backpacks and there's a safety issue, especially things in there, why can't we allow clear backpacks? They are there. If you want to go to a Mets game or other games, you have to have a clear backpack. You can order them, you can bring them, so that you can see what's in there. I think it's unreasonable, the amount of stuff that these students are being required in their supply list, and to have to lug around all day. Especially if they have to lug it around, it should be in a bag that they can carry. Instead of the sling bag can hold one binder, they can't possibly carry all that stuff. So I think we really need to seriously consider allowing backpacks. And if the safety issue is the fact that you don't know what's in it, there are options for clear backpacks. Because there's no way possible everything on that list you could carry around.
As a last year 8th grade parent, I can tell you that they can get away with those fabric ones, as long as they have the fabric, the big fabric binder with the carry handle.
So here's the thing. He had one of those. That was the big fabric. There were 3 of them, three ring binders this year were on for this year. So
It was the exact same for last year, and I'm telling you, as they
well,
can get away with not, but
it's
it does need to
very-
be communicated,
it's
yes.
very, but still, sometimes you have to carry your lunch around. You don't have time to go for your lunch.
Time to get to the locker. The teacher
Well,
for
when-
30 years.
For 3 minutes.
It's
that's-
plenty of time.
Well,
I went to that school.
I just could disagree
So
on
I'm
that
just
one. They can
wondering
use their
though,
lockers,
if we
they choose
allow them
not
at
to.
the high school, why don't we allow them at the middle school? What's the difference?
This
I
was-
mean, if that were
I know that this was a big
that-
conversation on BLT
if that
2
were,
years
if that were
ago.
the issue, and when we brought it up before, it's like, they don't have time to get to them at their, like, in the high school, so they just carry backpacks every way. So why can't they carry a backpack in the middle school? It just doesn't, I mean, if there's a logical reason, I'm for it, but
When did that change happen? When did they stop being allowed to carry backpacks in the middle school?
I don't know.
It was 2 years ago, and BLT, and they could very well tell you what the conversation was. Denise was part of that conversation, as was Michelle Williams, as the parent rep. So
So
there is reason, and I know at the time, 2 years ago, she told me the reason.
So, sorry, Mel. So I'm just wondering though, I mean, without knowing the full reasoning behind it, did making that rule fix it? It's been 2 years. Did we see a change? Like whatever the problem was, did removing backpacks actually change it? Or are we, I mean, we're continuing to have a lot of conversations about problems in the middle school. So, I mean, if it moved the needle a lot, then certainly, you know, I understand the need for that rule staying. But if it didn't really have an impact on whatever it was that caused us to instate this in the first place, then I go back to your question. Why are we letting high schoolers have their backpacks, but middle schoolers can't?
I believe that it was also a safety concern because when they were putting their backpacks in the gymnasium, there was no safe way for them to get out, was one of the reasons I remember her saying.
Would it be advantageous for us to allow the building leadership team to discuss this? They have parent representation, or even with the PTO at the middle school, so that it's, because I don't know the answers to some of the questions you've asked. I thought that the no backpack rule had been around for a long time. Back, you know, when Pam was there, I thought that there was no backpacks, but I may be mistaken. But there was a rational reason.
Sure.
I think one of them, which isn't a school safety issue, is the organization and self-regulation of the kids. They were just jamming garbage in there and rotting whatever. Not that that shouldn't be taught, but I'm not sure.
I mean, as a parent, I can tell you that did not resolve that problem. I mean, because they still have their backpacks to
put
take
in their
home with them, it still ends up full of the same things.
Bologna sandwich and the trapper keeper, I know how it goes.
Yeah, right.
But now that you say that, they had undone the rule for COVID because they had to have all their things with them. And it was a safety concern of backpack space in the room and people tripping over it. Now that you say that, that is where the conversation came back up after 2021.
I was going to bring that part up, that, you know, for both students and adults in the classroom, there's a lot of tripping. I can't tell you how many times I tripped over in an AP bio class because they carry everything. There's a physical safety for the kids carrying it on their back because they're putting everything in there. And we did, well, and just something to think about, that's in your head too. We asked kids a lot. It was an anecdotal kind of poll we did, like, why don't you use lockers anymore? Because they, you know, when most of us went to school, you use lockers all the time, and now not. And it came down to cell phones, as always, right? The kids said, well, why do I need to, right? We did it in part to not have to carry stuff, but also because that was our social time. When the bell rang, that's when you saw your friends, that's when you got to talk and catch up on stuff. Now they're doing it with their phones all day long. So this may modify with the cell phone, no cell phone policy. It could modify because there's maybe a chance to get it. But from a staff standpoint, I will speak for them, having been there not that long ago. It's much better without those backpacks there.
And we never
Safety,
were
carrying
allowed
it.
to.
They just need to learn how to, we need to teach them, as Brian says, how to figure out how to get to those lockers in between.
Well, so I didn't mean for it to go off on a tangent this far, but find out the reason why. But I do know that some of the classes, from one end to the end, it's not physically possible at all. And we ran into that issue with bathrooms last year when they were being closed, and it was not physically possible to get to them and get back to class without being late. So that did happen last year.
Well, I'll fight you on that one, but okay.
Well,
We'll do that
they
another
closed,
time.
they closed a lot last year.
No, I'm talking about the lockers, not the
So,
bathrooms.
Okay, that's all I have.
All right, anybody else have anything else? All right, I'm going to ask for a motion to enter into executive session to discuss matters relating to the employment of a particular person. Second, Jenny? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And there'll be no further business when we come out. Thank you.